The Bills have found their hidden gems for the upcoming season. With training camp coming to an end and preseason games starting, certain players have stood out for their performances at camp. From established veterans to surprising newcomers, these are some of the players who were the camp MVPs, most improved, or the top rookies, according to the Buffalo Bills Sports Illustrated. My name is Maeve Miller, and I'm a part of the Bills Digest team, so please subscribe to our Bills Digest YouTube channel. Starting off with the offensive and defensive MVPs, and I'm sure it's going to come as a shock, but the offensive MVP is Josh Allen. The reports just said that he was doing everything that we know he can do, being consistent, finding the receivers, being a big leader, and you can see he just shows up to camp and he's in such a good mood and he just brings great energy. And he talks about how his personal life is great and he's carried that onto the field, which is just all good things. So I feel like not much to talk about here because we just know that Allen, what he can do. He's clearly the best player on our team, and he knows that he does have a huge weight on his shoulders, but he keeps on talking about how he doesn't care about his MVP status from last season, but he just wants to bring that Lombardi trophy back to Buffalo. So great things, hoping he'll stay healthy and that he'll have a great season. For the defensive MVP, this report, it was from Buffalo Bills Sports Illustrated, but also by Maddie Gleb, and she said that the defensive MVP is cornerback Christian Benford, which also isn't too much of a surprise. He's definitely come more of a rising star, signed a big contract extension with the Bills, and this report kind of said that maybe other teams and across the league will start recognizing him as a good player. And he was snubbed a little bit from being in the top 10 cornerbacks. A lot of people thought he maybe should be because some Jets or Dolphins players were. But I feel like the recognition doesn't really matter as long as he's playing well. And he's just been a good mentor for players like Maxwell Hairston. In Hard Knocks, we could see that he offered a prayer up with Hairston after Hairston's injury, and this is definitely a hard moment for Hairston. He's worked so hard as a rookie, and he has such an infectious energy, but clearly was very down at the moment because he's probably out for the next couple of weeks. But Benford was really much there for him, took him aside, and just gave him more hope. So I really liked seeing Benford because I know he's a great player, but it's good to see him as a good guy. And watching Hard Knocks on HBO, it's just been really cool to see everything. So I definitely recommend watching that if you haven't already, because you can see little moments like that between teammates and see how that chemistry is really building, especially because Harrison is a rookie, Benford is more of a veteran. And ideally, these would be the two guys that we thought would start, but with Harrison's setback, we don't know really how that's going to go. But overall, Allen, Benford, top players. I'd say they definitely are two of my favorite players, but also definitely the best in their respective niche. Next, I want to talk about some surprising standouts, some rookies, maybe some newcomers that had a good performance at camp. And this is depicting rookie defensive tackle TJ Sanders. He was the Bills' second-round pick, so we'd hope that he'd be performing well, and he is. And it definitely makes sense that he was voted the most standout as a rookie. I think a lot of it is the fact because Harrison is hurt. That kind of helped elevate his status. And we don't know how many snaps Sanders will get at defensive tackle, but I feel like it's good insurance to have if a player like Ed Oliver is injured, that we kind of have a backup and he's getting reps with these guys and just learning a lot. And that's what training camp really is, and these mini camps in the offseason. It's just getting reps with the guys, getting more experience, learning kind of the ins and outs of the Bills' offense and defense. So I feel like so far, besides Harrison getting hurt, the top two draft picks for the Bills have been going very well. And then Joshua Palmer, wide receiver, was the most surprising newcomer or most exciting newcomer. And this was a great pickup, I feel like, in the offseason. He was a free agent, and the Bills, I feel like, needed another wide receiver that has experience and reps in the league. And he's definitely getting more comfortable with Allen. In Hard Knocks, you could see that they're really focused on getting that chemistry because obviously Allen has chemistry with guys like Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, even the tight ends. But him and Palmer were definitely working at the catching points. Allen dropping the pass right in there and just kind of filling each other's energy out. Because I feel like Allen is kind of a unique quarterback. He has extremely hard throws, throws like rockets. So I feel like getting that time together was really good, and I think that was a big focus that we saw in Hard Knocks. So I'm definitely excited. Palmer was one of my favorite pickups during the offseason, and I'm glad to see that training camp has been working out, and I feel like he'll do really well at maybe the third wide receiver spot, but definitely get a lot of different reps. And then the biggest surprise, which is great news, was Tre'Davious White. A lot of reports were saying that he's having a standout year at camp. And that is just so exciting to see because he's such a hard worker and has battled through so much adversity with the ACL injury, the Achilles injury, getting traded, and kind of aging out of his prime, but he still shows up and works so hard. And it was kind of expected that maybe he'd be the backup behind Maxwell Hairston, but now that Hairston's hurt, it looks like he could be playing opposite Christian Benford. And obviously, you want your draft pick, your rookie draft pick to start, but if White is playing well, then I'd be very excited to see him play and get those reps. And not to bring up Hard Knocks again, but it's nice we got to see a little insight. Camp was over, and you could see him really working hard, doing extra reps outside. He was literally just like running up and down hills after camp. And I think that just shows that he knows he's a little bit behind maybe some of these rookies, or not, in his peak. He's almost like 30 years old, but he's working twice as hard, doing above and beyond to get where he needs to be. And, he looks good. He looks like in good shape. And we saw him talking to Beane during training camp and just saying how good he feels. And he feels like, he's having a great off season. And this was a quote from him about this. He said, "I work extremely hard, and a lot of people can see it. You can see it in my burst, the way I'm transitioning out of my breaks, the power, the way my body looks, how I feel in the morning. I put a lot of hard work in. It's not going to be a surprise to me or nobody that's seen my work. I pride myself on putting my best foot forward. I know what type of player, so the injuries kind of slowed it up, but that's going to be behind me now. Moving forward, it's going to be a great season." I feel like that was all just very positives, and this was in response to people saying, like, do you think you're going to start? Is it a surprise that you'd maybe start? And he was like, no, I've been putting in such hard work that even if Hairston wasn't injured, that maybe he'd still be in that starting spot. Either way, I'm really excited to see. He's just such I have such a soft spot in my heart for him because of what he's went through, and just kind of like a nice guy. So that was great news coming out of training camp. Lastly, I want to talk about some of the most consistent players, because that is really important for a team, not just to have stars, but to have real consistency. And Matty Gleb named defensive tackle Ed Oliver as the most consistent player, and he said the Bills need Oliver to be disruptor. He was in 2023, and the hope is that with better play at the one-tech position next to him, he can be that guy again. And Gleb said he does it in his get-off, he does it in his athletic body type that isn't one of the biggest defensive tackles, but he does it in his technique and his pass rush from move to side to side. I think that definitely brings up a good point that he's not the biggest guy, but he definitely compensates with being super quick off like the snap, great technique, and just like I said, disrupts plays before they even start. And Oliver's just been a great part of the Bills' defense over the last couple of years, and I'm glad he's still playing like how he was a few years ago. He's being consistent and just a great player. And then for the most consistent offensive player, this was given to the offensive line as a whole. And this is Deion Dawkins at left tackle, David Edwards and Osiris Torrance at the guard, Connor McGovern at center, and Spencer Brown at right tackle. And this is just a really strong group of guys. They have so much chemistry and communication that it was stated that almost have telepathy, where they don't even have to speak, they just know where each other is going to go. And I just feel like there's a lot of different guys. You have Deion Dawkins with this crazy infectious energy. He's just such, like, seeing him in Hard Knocks, he's such a funny guy. And you have other guys who are quieter, but they all have just great personalities. And they're actually ranked third overall for offensive lines by Pro Football Focus, so that was a good accolade. But even then, they don't even need that. They just know the kind of team they are, and I feel like they take so much pride in protecting Josh Allen. They know how great of a player he is, and they want to be that protection for him. And I feel like because the offensive line is so good, that's why there hasn't been a lot of priority on signing James Cook to this long-term deal, because when you have a strong offensive line, obviously you want a great running back, but the offensive line does so much for the team and opens up those passing lanes that if it doesn't work out with Cook, even though I hope it does, that hopefully any running back can come in and this offensive line can really help them be great. So I feel like overall, I like the consistent players that were chosen. The offensive line has just been getting better and better every year, and I think that adds to also why Josh Allen's so great, is that he can run, he can jump, he can throw, and he just is protected and was one of the least sacked quarterbacks last year. Overall, I do recommend watching Hard Knocks, as that shows a training camp with the Bills, because that's how you get a lot of insight, not just in how the Bills are playing, but in those little moments like Brentford's prayer with Hairston, or seeing Trey White do those extra reps, or seeing an extra interview from Josh Allen. I really recommend watching it. New episode comes out tomorrow, and it's just very exciting to see. I'm glad that the Bills, I hope it wasn't too much distraction having those cameras all around, but as a fan, it is exciting to see them play. Once again, please subscribe to the Bills Digest YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and go Bills.